Today is October 10, 2025. I'm actually broadcasting this as ICE vehicles are patrolling my neighborhood right now, with helicopters buzzing the lakefront condos all morning up here in Edgewater Beach. It is surreal to be doing this with people who are against the words I'm sharing literally outside my door and windows right now. Now, today in the Logan Square neighborhood of Chicago, Debbie Brockman, a video producer for WGN, was slammed to the ground and detained by ICE agents for doing her job. She was filming the apprehension of a person, camera in hand, people shouting, she's pressed, but that didn't stop them. Last week, a pepper bomb was shot into a reporter's vehicle right here in Chicago. These are not isolated incidents. They are warning signs. And I say that not as a distant commentator, but as someone who once carried a press badge through these same Chicago streets. I know what it's like to hold a microphone and a notebook, believing that the public deserves to know what those in power are doing in their name. That belief, that sacred calling, is what makes today's assault hit so close to home. Because this isn't just about one journalist or one bad decision by an ICE agent. It's an attack on the public's right to see and to know. The freedom of the press is not a nicety of democracy. It is the heartbeat of it. When that freedom is silenced, the rest of democracy doesn't fall all at once. It erodes quietly, deliberately, and then completely. We've seen this pattern before. In New York City, masked federal agents shoved and knocked down journalists covering ICE operations at 26 Federal Plaza. In Los Angeles, more than 24 journalists, 24, were arrested or assaulted while documenting deportation protests. Here in Chicago, a CBS News crew says they were struck by a pepper ball while covering an ICE enforcement action. And now a federal judge has had to issue a restraining order against the Department of Homeland Security itself, reminding it that the First Amendment still applies. Now, when a government has to be reminded that it cannot target journalists, that is a government on the edge of authoritarianism. History tells us what happens when this edge is crossed. Now, when Ferdinand Marcos declared martial law in the Philippines in 1972, one of his first acts was to shut down every independent news outlet. He did that on the very first day with ABS-CBN News. Journalists were arrested in the middle of the night, dragged out of their homes. Printing presses were seized. The government took over the airwaves and called it, quote, stabilizing the nation. In truth, it was the sound of democracy going silent. In Haiti, when Francois Papadoc Duvalier consolidated power, he shut down the free press, exiled and executed journalists. He killed them and replaced independent newspapers with state-controlled propaganda sheets. In Uganda, Idi Amin did the same thing. Within months of his 1971 coup, he banned newspapers that criticized his rule, detained editors, and forced the press to praise his so-called economic miracle. And in Romania, Nicolae Ceausescu turned the press into an organ of his cult of personality, where every headline praised him, every silence served him, and every lie kept the people in check. The same pattern repeats itself across history. When power feels threatened by truth, the first step is to blind the public. President George W. Bush on World Press Freedom Day in 2008 said something that remains profoundly relevant, and I'm going to quote him. Just and open societies protect and rely on the freedom of the press. That freedom is enshrined in the First Amendment. Brutal regimes and others who seek to stifle liberty often do so by closing down private newspapers and beating journalists. And decades earlier, John F. Kennedy told a gathering of newspaper publishers, quote, without debate, without criticism, no administration and no country can succeed and no republic can survive. Even presidents with opposing philosophies have understood that truth itself is the safeguard of democracy. When the truth tellers fall, the public falls behind. Today, a journalist's body hit the pavement in Logan Square. Tomorrow, it could be another, in another neighborhood, in another city, and each time we get a little closer to forgetting that a free press is not the enemy of the people. It is the people's witness. As a former journalist, I feel this in my bones. When the watchers are targeted, when the eyes of the people are forced shut, democracy begins to die in the dark. So let's be clear. This is not just an affront Amendment. This is an all-out attack on the First Amendment. And if we ever stop defending those who tell the truth, we will lose the very thing that makes this nation free.